Thank you, Jimmy and Holly. It was amazing. Got our hearts beating at the same time, don't we? Hi. Oh man, it's good to be here today. Good to see all of you. Glad to be back. We're in the process of talking about the 5 basic unity principles this January. Kind of a review and a fire up back to the basics. So about halfway through on principle 3 today, which is that we can create our life experiences by the way we think. It's all pretty powerful stuff. But before we dig into principle 3, I want to talk about the set of 5 of them first. So I've been a member here at Unity for, I think, 20 years, and there have been a number of versions of these Unity principles over the years. Some I really resonate with, some, I don't know. But it's an evolution, isn't it? And we're part of that evolution. So I want to start with kind of the old standard version. And I'm going to read them so I get it right. 1, there's only one presence and one power, active as the universe and as my life, God the good. 2, our essence is of God, therefore we are inherently good. 3, we are co-creators with God, creating reality through our thoughts held in mind. 4, through prayer and meditation, we align our heart-mind with God. Denials and affirmations are tools we use. And 5, through thoughts, words, and actions, we live the truth that we know. I think it's really refreshing that at Unity we don't have to memorize these beliefs. We just learn about them and that they evolve, the wording of them evolves. If you've ever tried to write something, it's tough to get a big idea down into one concise sentence. So today, if you go on the unity.org website, and I think that's in your bulletin, you want to pull out your little sheet? This is the way you'd see them written in the website right now. And I'm going to invite you to read them along with me. That's really cool, don't you think? All right, let me see if I can get them. Okay. Number 1. Wait a minute, are you ready? Yeah. Okay, you got them? All right. Number 1, there's one power, God. Wait, that's not it. Here we go. God is the source and creator of all. There is no other enduring power. God is good and present everywhere. 2, we are spiritual beings created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives within each person. Therefore, all people are inherently good. 3, we create our life experience through our way of thinking. 4, there is a power in affirmative prayer, which we believe increases our awareness of God. 5, knowledge of these principles is not enough. We must live them. So if you don't resonate with that wording, you can write your own, come up with your own. And it's kind of good to know what these principles are. So if someone asks you, what's unity, what's it about, you can talk about these principles and have something to say that gives them a view of what we are about. I was going to recap them in my own wording, but I think we got it, don't we? We got it. And you've got that piece of paper you can take home. So I just love how beautiful they are, how simple, and how much truth they hold in them. So let's take a deeper look at Principle 3. If you went in one of the youth rooms in our center here, you would see a poster with these 5 principles, and the wording is even a little different for our children. So Principle 3 is, I create my experiences by what I choose to think and what I feel and believe. That tells us that we've got a lot of control over our thoughts and a lot of control over our lives. Control over thoughts might seem a little humorous sometimes if you've ever tried to meditate. You can laugh about that. We have this condition, the monkey mind, when our thoughts are swinging from branch to branch, right? In mindfulness practices, that's called mindlessness. Well, let's swing over here now and talk about food, just for a minute. if you eat a diet of high-calorie foods, foods that have like no nutritional value, you're probably going to end up eventually experiencing some consequences from that. Over time, you might gain weight, and you might have some adverse health challenges because of your diet. So like food, a diet of unwholesome, negative thinking can also have negative consequences. You've heard the saying, you are what you eat. Well, Principle 3 tells us that you are what you think. The Buddha said that having negative thoughts is like a well-dressed, well-groomed person walking around with a dead animal carcass around their neck. That's pretty visual, isn't it? That's not a fur, that's a carcass. So after a while it would get pretty stinky, which I think is where we get that expression, stinking thinking, don't you think? The third unity belief touches on two principles, actually, the law of cause and effect and the law of mind action. Let's look at cause and effect first. We understand that the cause is why something happened, and the effect is what happened. So lightning strikes, that's the cause. The effect, a tree splits in part, in two. We might think that that cause and effect are separate somehow by time or space, but actually in consciousness, they're not. They happen at the same time. Lightning strikes, the tree splits. I know that Elle so wonderfully had us all turn our phones off, but let's imagine that somebody forgot to do that today. And then during our meditation, their phone started ringing, and it took them half a minute maybe for them to turn it off. Now, we're going to have a varied reaction to that. Some of us might say, well, might get angry. Some of us might hold some judgmental thoughts about that person. Some of us might say, it's God calling. And some of us, probably Nancy, wouldn't even hear the phone ringing, right? I'm going to take a sip. So how does that work? If the phone ringing is the cause, why don't we all have the same, why isn't the effect the same on all of us? I believe it's not the cause. The phone ringing is not the cause. That's an event. The cause is within our minds. Events don't cause our feelings, and they don't cause our thoughts. Our feelings emerge out of how we view and think about that event. So the cause is actually layers of beliefs and thoughts and feelings and attitudes and experiences that we have stored in our brains. If you think about back to your geology class in high school, the sediment settling out of a lake and falling and shifting down to the bottom of the lake floor. It's like layers upon layers upon layers of this gunk, or whatever. And the bottom layers solidified, turn into rock. They might even hold some fossils, right? And I think that's a good way to visualize what's going on here. Not to say this is bad. This brain functionality is actually supposed to make us more efficient, and it does. We don't need to think about how we drive the car or mow the grass or wash the dishes. It's automatic, like being on automatic pilot. But there are times where you might not want some of that automatic stuff to fire up. So, let's go back. The event is the phone ringing. The cause is these layers of memories and beliefs stored in your mind. And the effect, which happens in the same instant, are your thoughts and feelings and your physical sensations in the present moment. So, old thoughts and feelings become your present thoughts and feelings, just like that. So there is some good news here. Kind of maybe doesn't sound too good, but there's some good news here. And that's because, well, we don't have control over the events in our life. We do have control about our thoughts, what we think about those events. Things happen, lightning strikes, but we have choice over how we view that. We have the power to create our life experiences by the way we think. And in unity, we choose to think life-affirming thoughts. We practice, don't we? We practice thinking peaceful, harmonious thoughts. We practice forgiveness. We practice seeing the good in all situations, seeing that Christ light in other people, and seeing the divine in all creation. So, I said it was good news. It's not necessarily easy news. It takes some effort to change your thoughts and beliefs. According to neuroscientists, 95% of our thoughts are pre-programmed in emotional memories stored in our minds. Those layers, I know, it's a lot. Another way of looking at it is like old television reruns, right? Going on in your brain. So, want some more good news after hearing that? We don't have to keep watching those old reruns or listening to those old tapes. We can change the channel and we can write a new script. So you're going to hear more about the how to do that next week when we talk about Principle 4, prayer and meditation and using affirmations. And in Unity we call them denials, but what it is disempowering thoughts that you don't want to hold on to anymore. So I'm glad to be talking about Principle 3 because I think it can be misunderstood sometimes, especially the part about the law of mind action. We create our reality by the thoughts we hold in mind. Thoughts held in mind create after their own kind. Here's a quote from just an amazing Unity minister, Eric Butterworth. Wrote many, many books. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, but pick up one of his books. They're great. He says, life is consciousness. You stand where you do today, wherever that is, because of your consciousness. And there's only one way you can come to stand anywhere else, by changing your consciousness. If you wish to go up higher, you can do so. And there's no limit to the heights to which you can climb. But you must be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That last sentence, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, is from Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Here's what I think about Principle 3, that it's about healing. And it's about creating Christ consciousness, about becoming the highest version of yourself. It's about being transformed and renewing your mind. I don't carry this principle to a place of magical thinking. I don't think we need to be afraid of creating something we don't want because we go off on a tangent of error thinking. Not every thought we hold becomes manifest in the world. Thank goodness. We don't have to worry about words that we say absent-mindedly after we say, I am. I think that the omniscience, this field of infinite love and possibility, the power that created the universe, can understand some humor and slips of the tongue and irony. So I like to think about this principle by looking at the way Jesus lived and his teachings. I think that's the best example how to apply Principle 3. Jesus used his Christ nature to do amazing things. He spent his days healing people, creating food to feed the masses, teaching people with his stories and his parables, and he prayed a lot. I've never heard a story about him creating wealth or making something, manifesting something for himself, really. He was exceptional for his love and acceptance, especially for the ill and the outcast in society. He spoke out against hypocrisy, and he lived in Christ consciousness, in this place of knowing that I and the Father are one. Principle 3 calls us to think responsibly. Our thought energy is powerful, but it's not all powerful. Other people's thoughts are at work too. Cultural events and belief systems and the environment, all the weather. They're all factors that are out of our control. And Jesus' life is a demonstration of this too. He didn't live a life where everything was blissful and easy. Some people hated him, and ultimately they had him killed. He didn't cause that. The event of his crucifixion happened because of the thoughts and the beliefs that other people held about him and his teachings. Skipping a page. Okay, it's a spiritual practice to apply this unity principle to your life, and I'd like to just share an example of how I've applied it to mine. Back when I was attending classes at Unity Village, maybe 7, 8 years ago, I was learning to become a licensed Unity teacher, and I went through a lot of mental and physical and emotional anguish every time I needed to speak here at Unity. My self-talk when I prepare was really harsh, and I suffered a lot because of it. My old tapes would say things like, "Who do you think you are? What do you think you know?" That kind of stuff. You're not good enough. You don't know enough. And worse, okay? So over the years, I've worked with that voice. Believe me, I've worked with that voice and those thoughts and those layers of old beliefs and memories, and I've changed the way I think. Occasionally, those old tapes pop up again. It's kind of funny to me now, say maybe on the Wednesday or Thursday before the Sunday that I'm scheduled to speak. There'll come a voice like, "What were you thinking?" And "This is not good," or "This is a boring talk," something like that. And I've come now to not be startled by that voice. I think, oh, it's you. But I don't want to get emotional about it anymore. I say to it, well, this mess, this is the way I work. This chaos is how I figure out what I'm going to say on Sunday. And I'm in the midst of that now. And then I get present in the moment and do whatever it is that I need to be doing in that moment. So what an evolution, and I'm grateful for that. Here's an exercise I'd like to share with you so that you can get a little information about how you think. You might want to try this for a day or two this week before next Sunday. So make a chart on a piece of paper. And on the top of the paper have 4 column headings: past, present, future, and then a small column on this side that says energy. And then down this side, label it the hours of the day. So if you get up at 6:30 in the morning, start with 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., down through when you go to bed at night. And then set a timer for on the hour so that it rings on the hour and catch yourself there. What am I thinking? Write a brief sentence on your chart about what you were thinking and put that sentence in the appropriate column, whether it's a thought about the past, the present, the future. And then on the energy side, is this a negative thought I'm holding? Is it positive? Is it really positive? I'm going to give it a lot of pluses then. Or just a 0 if it's kind of a neutral thought. So this would give you a lot of information, I think, to work with. You might discover, boy, I am really negative in the morning. Or, gee, in the evening I tend to dwell in the past. Or, I don't know, you'll just see some patterns that'll be helpful to you when you start working with these thoughts in prayer and meditation. Here's some more good news. I've got a lot of good news today. Neuroscientists have discovered that our brains can rewire and create new pathways and circuits no matter how old we are. That's good news, isn't it? It's called neuroplasticity. And our brains do it by pruning old thoughts and sprouting, well, not thoughts, but connections, and then sprouting new connections. And I really like those gardening terms. So we can all become more skillful gardeners of our thoughts. There's a really cool tradition with the YOU here, the Youth of Unity. On the Wednesday night before Christmas, they have a kind of a special meeting where they invite back the past graduates, the kids that have gone on to college, and anybody that was a YOUer can come back to that. And all of us that were sponsors of those people can come back too. And we have the regular meeting and then a big potluck afterwards. It's really fun. And I went last month, and it was great. There were so many young adults there that I've worked with and had the pleasure of knowing since they were little, you know, and I was a Unity leader with this group and then a YOU sponsor, and it was awesome. It really opened my heart to be with them again. Part of the large discussion, Pam, our incredible Pam, asked some of these graduates to share something that they learned in YOU that's helped them in their life as young adults out there in the world. And they shared some really cool things. But one I want to share with you, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said. He said, you know how whatever lesson we were learning, whatever book we were reading, or whatever we were talking about, it always came back to principle 3? That we create our life experience by the way we think. It's so powerful and it's so true. And then he went on to give a few examples from his life. And I just think it's so cool that we have beliefs here and tools that we use, that our kids use, and they make our life better. Our thoughts become our life experience. So choose good thoughts. Choose empowering and loving thoughts. Choose kind and forgiving thoughts, compassionate, courageous, creative, and constructive thoughts. If you do, you could experience heaven on earth. Peace, blessings.